Hey everyone, I'm Scott Cunningham, aka Scottsy Business, and today we are finally doing the comprehensive blockchain, social media, and crypto monetized platform review. I have 170 platforms that I've taken a look at, and given my final recommendations, there's only 8 platforms that I recommend that you actually use out of that 170. And in this report, I have consolidated a ton of other things that'll be useful for you guys, different places that you can explore and find new applications, a whole list of blockchain services and resources that you can go to as well and view that video. I've consolidated so much information. This report is 16,349 words. Again, that's not considering all the other stuff that's been consolidated and added into this. So at the very least, before you even start watching this, I would extremely appreciate you just giving this a like, subscribing to the channel, and, saving this for later because, not only is this going to be useful for you and, giving my full take on everything, but the blog version of this, you can actually go back to and use as an index just to know where all these platforms are, have the links, have all the basics down pat, and you can explore some of the tertiary recommendations and things that I think could maybe improve in the future if you really want to spread out what you're doing. But the whole point of this review is so that you don't have to spend a bunch of time looking at all these different platforms that you might want to use. I've narrowed it down to the top 8, 2 of which aren't necessarily platforms. So realistically, it's the top 6. And I still know that not everyone is going to want to use 6 social media platforms. So in that top 6, I'll kind of explain the differences. And then whatever makes the most sense for you, you can use. But I recommend using all of them, not only because it's a great way to back up all of your content and, not be reliant on legacy platforms, legacy meaning, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all that stuff. These are great backups. They also offer you monetization. You're earning from day one, which is huge. And I'll be putting out my monthly report for December very soon, where I actually earned just around $2,000 Canadian. So clearly, these platforms are very good in terms of earning. And I took about a week and a bit off in December too. So even with that time off, I was able to earn about almost $2,000 Canadian just from posting on these platforms and earning platform rewards. So if that sounds good to you, then you're definitely going to want to stick around and check all these out. And if you don't want to sit through this, because I guarantee this is going to be ridiculously long, you could just go and check out the blog version and just scroll to the bottom and see my top recommendations if you don't want to bother with all the fluff. I've also made a video that explains why I wouldn't be recommending many different platforms. So I won't be diving, heavily into that. I'll just be kind of skimming through it. And then I'll cover some of the new platforms I looked at recently this year. Obviously, I went through all the old platforms again as well. I'll talk about platforms that I really think you should avoid at all costs because they're very sketchy and maybe even borderline scams. Platforms that close down, and then talking about some of those tertiary recommendations where it's like, if you're still looking to just, do the extra little bit and post everywhere, I would bother with those as well because I'm posting on like 30-ish platforms. So, if you want to do half of that, you can still do that. So with that being said, again, I would extremely appreciate you sharing this with other people and doing whatever you can to help spread the message, giving this a like, all that good stuff, because this took me just insane amounts of research time, all that good stuff. But it's all for you guys and for me too, because this is going to serve as a very good resource for a lot of people. And this will probably be the most important blog and video that I put out in 2021. Even though, this is the 2nd of January. And my birthday is coming up in 1 week. So again, as a birthday present to me, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. All right, now let's get into it. So you guys don't have to keep waiting because there is a lot to get through. So this is the finally, this is the new comprehensive review. This is the 5th one in the series. I used to do them a lot more frequently, but I've been kind of pushing it back because I've wanted to give all these different platforms the most amount of time to get everything in order, because every time I was about to go and do it, there'd be issues with certain platforms, and I felt like that was unfair. So I feel like all the platforms in this review have the best chance right now to either, be recommended or, not make it or whatever. They're in the best situation to be reviewed. So I think this is the fairest time to do this. And yeah, so if you guys do want to check out that video talking about the different categories that we're going to go through, like, things like if a platform is too niche or if a platform lacks media functionality, I kind of explain how all of these have worked and how I categorized all of these in this other video, which is linked here and it'll be linked in the description. And then if you want to actually explore all these applications yourself, I've linked 5 different platforms that just have a ridiculous amount of platforms listed on there. The issue that I find though with these reviews is they kind of just share whatever the platform said about themselves. They don't actually have like a review attached to it. And they normally rate it based on users and like blockchain transactions, where a lot of these platforms don't have, they're not using the blockchain entirely, like say Library and Hive would. So it makes it look like they don't really have much going on because it's measuring specific things that aren't exactly accurate for what we're looking for. So a lot of these, in terms of like the way they're ranked, is kind of all over the place. And there's like an insane amount of blockchains now that have social dApps, but most of them are either not working or they're not really social dApps. Like they might be like a dating application or surveys or question and answer. But I'm mainly focused on, true social media alternatives, like something like Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. But in terms of blockchain, using the blockchain, or at least having some form of crypto monetization on the platform where you can earn cryptocurrency, either via tips or more ideally through platform rewards where you're getting paid from the platform for sharing your content. And again, good examples of that are like Library, Hive, PublishOX, read.cash. We'll get to those top recommendations at the end, but just keep all that in mind. And then again, I also have the blockchain resources and services, just a couple different links to different blog versions of this, and then the video. So, you can go and check all that out as well. It's just got a ton of different things for, different resources, even some stuff for like music, and things that might have been included in this, but weren't necessarily social media. Like I don't consider music platforms social media. So that stuff is in there. And then you've got things like, a few different wallets that I've used, a few different exchanges, things like ENS, where you can have like a .eth address to send crypto to, and that'll map to your other addresses. There's loads of resources and services in there that'll be very, very beneficial to you. And I didn't want to clog this up with resources and services, so I've consolidated that there for you guys to check out as well. And then we've got platforms that are not ready somehow. These have been out for, or in the works, saying that they're about to release for over a year now. So I've kind of lost hope with these platforms. Either way, though, let's get into the actual review. So all of these platforms I've actually already reviewed. You've seen these in previous reviews. There's 92 in this section. These are previously not recommended, and they're still not recommended. Anything from them being too niche to lacking media functionality, mainly being messenger based when I'm focused more on social media, not just messengers. Because it's more of a feature than, a platform in its entirety. In my opinion, I don't consider Telegram a social media platform. I just consider it a social communications platform. So there's a lot of different categories for this, and all of these are still the same as last year. So, there's not going to be a lot of a difference here. You're not going to see anything new, at least for these sections. A lot of these platforms just, they weren't quite what I wanted. And I will say, I do use some of these platforms, to be, frank. I do use some of these platforms, even though I don't recommend them. Because I still want to be, I'm a little crazy with how many platforms I test and use. I'm currently using something between 30 and 40 platforms. But I still want to test these out in case I feel like they improve or become more viable. And then maybe I move some things around, because it's not fair to me or to you to just put something in a category and then leave it there forever and say it can never improve. So I do go back, I check all these, I see if they still have the same issues. I do update these, but for the most part, most of these are still just as bad as they were a year ago. And they still have all the same issues. And it's not always that they're necessarily bad. Sometimes it just doesn't fit the requirements of what I'm really looking for. So for example, Mastodon, I use Mastodon, but I'm not a fan of the setup where you have small little communities and they kind of create echo chambers, right? So similar to Diaspora, Hubzilla, GNU Social, and other platforms like that, right? They're also not really using the blockchain or even have cryptocurrency. So I could not even include these at all. But a lot of people will always mention these because they are, decentralized. So it's worth including them just for that sake. But for, the sake that they are very, sectioned off, they don't have cryptocurrency, they're not using the blockchain, it doesn't really make sense for me to recommend these, because again, while many of these might still be worth using, because I use them, realistically, most people aren't going to use more than a couple platforms. So me even recommending 8 platforms at the end of this is probably too much for most people. So I have to be very stringent in what I'm actually going to recommend at the end of the day, because I'll just end up recommending so many platforms that people will be in the same issue as they originally were in, which is, which platform should I use then? So there can't be that many to actually, narrow it down to. So at the end, I'm going to talk about the differences and why you might use one or the other. So then you can then just decide out of the recommendations what makes the most sense for you. So that is this section. I don't want to spend all my time going through what I didn't recommend, because I've explained why these wouldn't get recommended. You can read my little excerpts here as to why they didn't. Again, none of this has really changed from before. So like, for example, a platform that requires you to spend crypto to interact, like Twitch, very, very unideal. It's clunky. You've got to use money button, all this different stuff. And it's like $1 to, change your profile picture or to change like some random setting, and stuff like that is just not viable. Whether or not it is on the blockchain, it's unrealistic to think that anyone is going to actually spend $1 to change a basic setting, let alone, 10 cents to follow someone, 5 cents to post, whatever it is. I'm not sure exactly what it is, but it's very, very unideal. So, that's one example. But there's many examples of bad platforms on this. But let's take a look at some of the new platforms. Actually, just before we do that, previously recommended, now not recommended. And I'll explain why that is. So Tribe is lacking a community. It's not profitable. People barely use this. They still lack basic features. You still have to log in with Scatter. So much resistance to using this platform, and you still have to get your blog posts approved. So it's extremely centralized, more so than even something like Facebook or Twitter. And that really just doesn't work with the ethos. And I thought that they claimed they were going to change this in the future, and they never did. And, I've had issues with it because of, EOS's CPU congestion, all these different issues. Tribe is just a no-go. And I mean, they own about like 99% of the tokens. So it's like no one's even really bothering to own Tribe, so there's a lot of issues there. Tribe is a no-go. Coast.tv, it was okay for what it did. I didn't really earn very much there. And it's a little awkward. Like, the platform isn't the greatest in terms of like being intuitive as to how to navigate around and do different things. But after they adopted Theta, which I criticize heavily, a bunch of my videos, most of my videos were removed. And I thought that was very odd that cause.tv would remove videos like a year after they were up, but then leave some other videos. And I believe it happened around the time that I started to heavily criticize Theta, and lo and behold, cause.tv started using Theta's infrastructure, which leads me to believe naturally that there's something sketchy going on. Maybe it was an accident, but nonetheless, if a platform is accidentally going to remove your videos and they have to all be manually reviewed and approved anyways, it's clearly very centralized and not really aligned with a lot of the blockchain values that most people are searching for to begin with. The fact that it was ever recommended is honestly weird that I ever bothered to recommend this platform. But either way, these two are now not recommended going forward. So now new platforms that I've reviewed and I'm not recommending. A lot of these are just, like random, like Wishu, and Streamanity is okay. But they've recently made it so that you have to pay about $1 per video to upload, in hopes that people are going to like tip you a bunch and donate to you. I think that's very unrealistic. And again, people having to pay money to use a platform, and do basic features like posting a video, it's just not realistic. And again, I'm sure there's going to be some people who are going to be upset by me saying this and maybe say like, oh, like, you're paying by giving up your privacy on Twitter, so this isn't any different. Yes, well, we're going through terrible economic times, and it's insane to think that anyone's trying to pay to post a video or to follow someone on social media. It's completely like just unreasonable, and no one would be doing that. At least the way that this is sort of built out and focused is it's not for extremely crypto, tech savvy people. This is for the average person. Who do I think is the normal person who's on Twitter, who's then going to switch over and use this platform or some new platform? It's not going to be, people are not going to go to platforms that charge you and cost money to do basic things. So, that's not realistic. Rothkin, it was okay, but it was very restrictive. They only allow certain creators on the platform. I'm not a super big fan of that. And recently when I try to upload to it, it just doesn't even work for me. So maybe it was how big the videos were. I'm not sure, but too many problems for me to actually recommend this. And for people who are following along and maybe wanted to see some of these platforms, I'll bring up the platforms that I recommend. But if I were to go through all the platforms that I didn't recommend, this would take hours and hours and hours. So I do want this to be as succinct as we can possibly get it. So Satchi is a live streaming alternative, but there's barely anyone on there. A problem that I see with almost every live streaming platform is that if they're actually using the blockchain, it's almost impossible to do it well. And most platforms are either lacking users or they're like just a terrible platform. And we'll get to Theta and DLive very soon, and which are both live streaming platforms that don't really fully utilize the blockchain. Like, it's not like they're streaming on the blockchain, but they're absolutely terrible platforms for what they do. Theta, you can't withdraw your funds, and DLive, they make it extremely, very, 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 very challenging to withdraw your funds. And we'll get to that. Blurt is okay. I still use it, but recently I haven't been able to access it, so that's clearly an issue. It's just another clone of Steam, kind of like Waku and Whale Shares, but it's better than those. However, every clone of Steam I've ever seen has either had scams related to it, like Bear Shares, or the issues with the Whale Share witnesses, and we'll get to that. Or Waku, which had a ton of issues with people creating fake accounts and basically just taking all the value out of Waku, and now it's worth nothing. So Blurt blog may be good, but they have a lot of issues as well, and I'm not really a big fan of it. And they're supposed to disincentivize spam with fees, but really what just happens is a lot of your Blurt just goes to them, which is obviously unideal. Most social dApps on Tron and EOS don't really work very well. Either there's issues with them, the infrastructure isn't working, it's something like DLive, which has tons of problems. For the most part, I found that EOS and Tron, their best use case was really just for gambling, and the few platforms that do exist on them are not very good, right? Like voice.com, not very good. They spent 30 million on the domain alone, and the platform is just a flop. Vibervid doesn't work very well. A lot of EOS dApps. Tribe was probably the best EOS dApp, and that clearly didn't work out very well either. So a lot of these other ones are just, random small platforms that just aren't very good. I used Commune for a little bit. Not really good. A lot of these that are really bad, I only, briefly looked at. Ones that were okay, I kind of, tested them out, posted for a while, and then I came to my conclusion, because obviously I can't spend a ton of time on all these. Here we have Voice again. Voice was just a big flop in my opinion. Originally it was invite only, and they spent all of their money just on the domain, barely worked on the platform. It's barely had any changes since it's launched, and there's tons of spam, not a lot of interaction, not a lot of engagement. Anyone that I knew who started using Voice has more or less fallen off. So that's pretty sad considering they had, I think it was like 4 billion or just a ridiculous amount of funding when EOS started. And they've not managed to create a single decent social platform on EOS exactly. There are some built on EOS.io like Voice, but still not very good. $30 million was spent on voice.com. And that seems like where most of the budget went, not to the actual platform. Rumble, I'm not even sure if this is fully like a crypto platform, but it's okay. I still use it. I still post my videos on here, but it's not the best. I haven't really earned anything. Torum is another new one. It's all right, but again, you can't really withdraw your funds. And for me, the base litmus test for any platform is, can I deposit funds and then withdraw them? If not, I usually just avoid it entirely. And that's an easy way to just go about it. BearShares was basically a scam. They deleted a bunch of people's wallets, never replaced it. More or less a scam. I talked about Waku. They had a lot of issues with people creating fake accounts. They only ever had like one witness for the longest time. I don't know if that's changed. WhaleShares had scams going on with their witnesses. I've been using it again, but it's, I haven't gotten much engagement. It's not really worth much anymore. Theta is an interesting one because the Theta network is legit in terms of like their nodes and stuff, but theta.tv, you cannot withdraw your funds, but they do let you spend it on random merchandise, which is unideal. It's kind of like a survey point model, and I would not recommend that at all. They had a partnership with Samsung, who clearly bailed out. You can tell very clearly by just checking their website, even though they're still listed on Theta Token as a partner, but they've deleted their original Medium article that announced this, and on their website they still say they're a partner here. So I did find that pretty alarming, and just simply that they're working with all these advisors from like YouTube and Twitch. I don't expect it to be anything better than that. I expect them to employ these same things, like not letting you get your cryptocurrency off of the platform because it's extremely centralized, and they take your bandwidth, your excess bandwidth, and use that to run the platform, and then they give you a tiny amount of rewards in return, and then you can't really spend them or withdraw them or do anything. So I really don't like that model, and I wouldn't recommend anyone use Theta. I know that's going to upset a lot of people, but I've done, I'll link the video and everything to why I don't recommend Theta and all the many problems with Theta. Yes, the value is going up, and I've never said that it wasn't going to go up in value, but the platform and the live streaming is just a mess. Same thing basically with DLive, although you can get your stuff out. The difference is that you have to just go through all these different hoops. Like you have to stream for 3 days in like 8 hours, I believe. You need to KYC verify with an ID. You need a certain amount to actually withdraw. There's a lot of different requirements that basically just make it very, very challenging and very unideal, because again, if you can't withdraw your funds, that's all you really need to know to not bother using a platform. All these other ones are just kind of like, either like scams or just like terrible platforms, or they're, there's no one using them, but they expect you to pay money for something. Just completely avoid all those. Again, DLive here. It was acquired by Tron, who also acquired Steam, basically, and ruined Steam. And then they acquired DLive and basically ruined DLive. PewDiePie used to exclusively stream on there. And then after the acquisition, lo and behold, PewDiePie left. So I think that was mainly what they were trying to get, and they lost that. They had staking, and I was doing staking on their platform for a bit, but then they completely shifted it all towards creators and not towards the actual stakers for the most part. So just DLive is kind of a mess as well, and it doesn't really fully utilize the blockchain, so I'm not a big fan of that. Anything that Justin Sun buys and uses, just he ruins. And we already know and see that most Tron social dApps just don't work, or they're, poorly managed, or whatever it happens to be. There were several platforms that closed down. Narrative was a full-out scam. They raised millions of dollars and charged people for verification and buying communities. And then and they only gave away like $1,500, and then they claimed they were bankrupt after a year, even though they raised millions of dollars and all this different stuff. So that was a really, really sketchy one, and is basically a scam. I saw that there were some people in the community trying to revive it, but it's really just been tainted, and I don't see that ever coming back. I really liked Sola back in the day, but that shut down a while ago. Peepo does not work from what I've seen. It's kind of like a TikTok or like a Snapchat, but it just didn't work out. Hyperspace, they had a lot of issues. They were approving posts, and you had to do all this stuff with your phone number to actually verify, and that didn't work for Canadians, and a bunch of different stuff. And that never worked out. So you can kind of see the platforms that didn't work out failed a lot of the things that I would not recommend a platform for. So naturally, they didn't end up working out. And that kind of goes hand in hand. So these are some platforms that, if you're willing to use a ton of platforms, you might want to check these out. These are platforms that I might have recommended if they got better. Memo.cash is one where you do have to spend Satoshis to post, and it's using Bitcoin Cash. But essentially, it's kind of like a Twitter alternative. It's a little techy though, and it's very like raw interface. So it's not for everyone, but it is worth taking a look at if you're into that. You can also create your own SLP token on Memo.cash. So that's pretty cool. Rebuzz is decent, though it's only for your phone. So, I'm not a huge fan of things that are mobile only, but it still needs to grow and get better, but it's decent for what it is. So, if it gets better, I will definitely recommend it in the future. Mixacuity, again, it's kind of a very, very techy platform, so it's not very easy to use for the average user. So it does need to see improvements, but they have a lot of unique things that they're trying to do with this platform that I would like to see to come to fruition, and I would recommend it if that did work out very well. Springroll is kind of like a crypto LinkedIn alternative. It's not the greatest. There's not a lot to it, but if they can really achieve that, I think that will, really, it'll be worth a recommendation if it could actually be a true alternative to LinkedIn. BitTube is an okay platform. I mean, I haven't earned anything with BitTube, though you're supposed to be able to earn Tube cryptocurrency. There's not a lot of people on here either, but I still post to it because you can auto sync your YouTube, which is very, very nice. And you probably should just do that anyways. But they also keep rebranding and switching their domain all the time. And it's kind of a branding nightmare. This platform is also starting to like merge with PeerTube, and there's issues with that where you have to like re-upload things and all this different stuff. They make it just very, very confusing and complex, and for very little reward, because there's not a lot of people using this from what I see, though it is growing, and I wasn't able to earn anything on this platform. So, you know, if that's important to you, then clearly you probably won't want to use that. Scent.co, I did like how this was originally, but as they've sort of improved it, or, you know, changed it rather, it's become more clunky, and it's always signing me out and failing to post posts. And, you know, if they can improve it some more, I think it'll be able to do really well. But from my experience using it, it hasn't been the greatest. Sapien has been getting better, but again, they're kind of lacking a user base, and their staking model is a little complex and confusing for most people. I haven't, and there's like all these different communities and tribes with like no one in them. So the only thing that I ever really post to is cryptocurrency. Otherwise, no one's going to see my content. So there's definitely, you know, some issues there. But if they can improve that, it'll definitely get a lot more users, because the SPN token has been gaining value. So there's definitely, you know, some value behind that, but it needs to continue improving to really get to where it needs to get to. TokenTuber, it's not decentralized or on the blockchain. It's really just an aggregate of YouTube, more or less. It just has a bunch of YouTube videos that are crypto related, and you can earn TokenTuber, but you can't really sell it or withdraw it or do much with it yet. So, you know, I'm not a huge fan there. The CEO I did an interview with, and he's been very supportive, but you know, I'm just not a super big fan of the platform. And again, if it does improve, then maybe it will be a better solution. BitChute has always been, you know, all right, but they haven't really improved it at all in the last 2 years. And it's not, you know, very crypto focused or decentralized. So, you know, it's not amazing, but it's definitely worth giving a mention to, because they could easily integrate something like that. And although I don't see that happening. But if they did improve it, it would definitely be worth recommending. Vibravid is an interesting platform. It's very unique. It's focused on music and video. However, since they've been upgrading it, it's caused issues for uploads, and I haven't actually been able to upload anything to this for a long time. So, you know, clearly I can't recommend it if it's not working properly. But it is probably the only Tron social application that has any chance of getting a recommendation in the future. So I would keep an eye on this, because it may improve over the next year. Discussions.app is a good EOS.io project that is kind of like a Reddit alternative, but I still wouldn't recommend it in its current form. It's still a little clunky and awkward, and, you know, lacking basic features like being able to set your profile picture and things like that. But, you know, if they improve it, it's definitely worth taking a look at. So tertiary recommendations, these are platforms that, you know, you might as well sign up on if you just want to get the word out and maybe, you know, earn a little bit or maybe none, but, you know, it's worth taking a look at and trying out. Mine's, their monetization model has gotten significantly worse over the years, and it's almost impossible to earn much of anything on there now. All I really earn is like maybe like a half a Minds token a day, and then that gets you like a couple hundred views for boosting, but you're not really going to make much money off of it. And to pay for the Pro is like $40 a month. And if you're not able to make more than that, then you're just losing money every month. So it's very unrealistic, and I don't see it getting better, but I hope that they do. I still use Minds because it's still good as like a Twitter alternative. But in terms of trying to earn and the different things like that and how they use the blockchain, it's not really that great. And you'd think that they'd be doing better now that they have way more funding behind them, but they haven't, sadly. Uptrend has gone worse, though the token has, you know, improved in value. They haven't really improved the platform much. It's still very spammy. They've raised withdrawal restrictions where you need at least 3,000 points to withdraw. So, you know, they're adding more restrictions, and in my opinion, they're making it worse. So, you know, I've moved it down to tertiary recommendations. Obviously, they can still fix a lot of this, but I would love to see that happen, and I would recommend them more legitimately if they did. You can check out my interview with Jeff Kurtikis, who is the CEO there. I've done 2 interviews with him. And yeah, again, like their coin has increased in value, but it's really just, it's not working out very well for them. Steam, as most of you know, was, there was a hostile takeover by Tron, Justin Sun taking over Steemit, and then basically ruining the entire Steam platform. I would never recommend Steam, and I don't see them being able to fix this at this point. Most people have just moved on to Hive as the successor to Steam. But, if you want to earn a little bit of Tron and a little bit of Steam, then, it doesn't hurt to just post the same post that you're posting here on like from Hive to here as well. Or if you're posting to DTube, you can automatically post to here and Hive. So that's just a way for you to earn a little bit of extra money. And it's like, why not? If you're going to bother, then why not? But otherwise, I wouldn't go out of my way to use this platform. Float has been a good crypto Patreon alternative, and I highly recommend it for that. It's been really, really good to use. They're coming out with an ad monetization model and a token. While they don't have that yet, I think that is what will really propel them. And, I will give them a primary recommendation at the end of the year if that works out really well and, it does a good job. And I really like what their team is doing. They're very open to feedback, and they're doing a great job. So it is a tertiary recommendation for now, but I definitely see this being one of them that will make it to the primary recommendations in the future. Somi.social, I recently did a long review, like a 40-minute review going through everything on the platform. You can't withdraw your funds that you deposit or earn unless you pay to verify, and you have to give them your ID and KYC verifying. That alone does not get a full recommendation by me, but because I've been able to earn so much on this platform, and just last month, like $200 US or something like that, it's pretty ideal. And, if you have the extra time, it's definitely worth using. But for people who value privacy, who don't want a KYC, who don't like the concept of having to pay to withdraw your funds, there's many reasons to not use this. And that's why it's only in the tertiary recommendations bit, because you still could earn a lot of money and it's still a decent Facebook alternative. But there's a lot of problems here with the management, the leadership, the staff, lots of things that they need to really fix, but it could eventually maybe get a primary recommendation. So for the actual primary recommendations, the things that you guys have been really waiting for here, Hive is the first one. Hive is, again, the successor to Steam. So basically everything that Steam was is now Hive, minus all the corrupt stuff regarding the Steam takeover from Tron, and they've prevented that from ever being able to happen again. I wasn't a fan of the way that their airdrop worked in terms of blocking certain people from getting it based on the way that they voted, because punishing people based on their vote is a very scary concept. But now everything seems to be good. They've got decent community on here, communities where it's like second layer solutions where you can also earn those tokens as well. So there's a lot of great things you can do with this. I typically use Leo Finance as a community to earn Leo token, but there's a lot of different communities where you can earn their token on the platform, and it just makes you able to earn even more and participate in more communities and just do a lot more. So Hive has been fantastic, and they've improved a great deal over this year. DTube is very new. Ever since Steam did what they did, DTube left Steam, and though you can still post to Steam and Hive from DTube, DTube now has their own mainnet, which lets you post directly on there, and you can earn DTC. They have a slightly different earning model, and I'm a big fan of the way that it works. I guess I can quickly show you guys some of these platforms, just to give you an idea. So if you haven't seen any of my reviews or things for these before, I recently just did a 50-minute review where I go through everything on Hive, so you can learn all about that, the communities, all the different platforms that use Hive. But essentially, if you're familiar with Steam in the past, it's a just a clean network. You can have all these different interfaces built on top of it. There's video platforms like 3Speak. There's regular blogs like hive.blog, or thisispqd.com. There's all these different interfaces to access it. And then you can use your Hive to earn Hive. You gain 3.4% APR just for holding it. And I delegate out my Hive to earn about 13% APR every day, paying me out in daily payments. So that's been very, very ideal. And this is a great way to build a passive income, as well as just earn cryptocurrency for sharing content on social media, and for curating, you also earn. So a lot of benefits to using this platform. And then what I was just talking about was DTube. So let's pull this up. DTube is the same that it's always been, but now they have their own mainnet where you actually have DTC, and instead of staking it, just by holding it, you grow your voting power, which allows you to give other people upvotes and help them earn DTC or boost your own content. And as you can see, I earn a decent amount. It's very ideal. It's worth a lot too. It's like 30 cents. And then you can connect to MetaMask, withdraw it, sell it on Uniswap, or, if you want to provide liquidity and earn something through that, you can do that as well. Great video platform. They also allow you to upload in many different ways, where you could, upload from YouTube or directly upload. Lots of good features and options. I also did an interview with the founder quite a long time ago when they were still using Steam. But it's worth watching because he just talks about the vision and everything that they're doing at DTube, and I'll make sure to link that as well. Read.cash is also very new. This has been a great blogging platform. You can also do short form posts. They've also come out with noise.cash to do your short form posts on as well. But I've been able to earn a great deal on this platform. It is primarily funded by Mark DeMezel. You can see $216,000 worth of Bitcoin Cash in US dollars worth has been funded mostly by him, which is amazing. I included an interview that I did with him, and I'm going to be doing something with the read.cash team very soon, I believe. And I've also done a full breakdown of this platform and a review for you guys to check out as well if you want to learn more about this. There's a lot of cool things you can do. You can boost your content. You can sponsor people and get sponsored. And then you can just write regular status posts or blog posts. And they allow you to do things like embed library videos or YouTube or whatever it happens to be. So I really like read.cash. It has been growing exponentially. I believe it came out in 2020. And they have something like 40,000 plus users now. So they've grown very, very rapidly. They're now at 44,699 users. And they're doing a very, very good job. So definitely recommended by me. LBRY is probably my favorite platform and my biggest recommendation. It is the true decentralized alternative to YouTube, if not successor to YouTube. There's multiple platforms that you can access it on. I actually just hit 28,000 followers, so that's awesome. You can use an application for full decentralized use. You can use LBRY.tv or the other application that they have, or rather browser website, odyssey.com. So there's a lot of different interfaces that have been built on this, similarly to Hive. When you have a truly decentralized platform that uses the blockchain, anyone can build a platform on top of that. Because they're typically open source, and it's just interfaces being built on top of the content. So platforms like LBRY or Hive will probably have many different interfaces, and already do. And that kind of explains that. But you're able to earn LBC cryptocurrency for every verified user who views your content. So you're able to earn a lot of money on here. Their cryptocurrency recently spiked up all the way to 10 cents lately. So, if you're earning 1 or 2 LBC per view, you're earning upwards of 10 to 20 cents per view in US dollars, which is an extremely high value, especially for people who are coming over from YouTube. You can auto sync and start earning from day one, unlike YouTube, where obviously you have to meet a lot of different requirements and restrictions to be able to actually earn anything on those platforms. Brave browser is not a social media platform, but it is worth including because everything you've seen here has been on Brave. They have a great ad blocker. It's faster than Chrome. And if you decide to allow ads on the platform, you're going to earn BAT token every month you get paid out. So, it's not worth a crazy amount, but getting free money just for having ads that are very unintrusive while it blocks intrusive ads is a very great way to earn without really having to, do anything. So it's a very passive way for you to just get a little bit of extra crypto. And, if it ever does go up a lot in value, you're able to cash in on that. So I highly recommend that. You could just have no ads at all. It's just a great Brave browser is a great internet browser in general, and I highly recommend that. PublishOX is a blogging platform. I previously, reviewed this, talked about this. I have a full review, and it's very similar to read.cash. It's a little bit more centralized in that you can only withdraw your funds at certain points in time because they're held offline. So it all makes sense. But they also approve their authors. So again, it's a little more centralized in that aspect, but it is definitely worth using. And I've had a great time using PublishOX, and it's crypto agnostic. So you're able to earn a lot of different cryptocurrencies on this platform. As you can see here, I've earned BAT, ETH, and Ample. So that's really, really great to be able to earn different cryptocurrencies on this platform. That is it. That's my conclusion. The end here just kind of talks about some of the different changes and stuff. These are all the platforms that I'm currently using, more or less. But these few that I recommended at the end are the ones that I mainly recommend. It really just depends if you want to blog or, just tweet out little short things, or focus on something that is a video platform like Library or Hive that has 3Speak. So there's a lot of different options for you, but these are the main recommendations I would make because these fulfill, all the criteria that I would apply when reviewing any social media platform. Let me know though, what platforms are you using? What did you think of this review? How accurate was this? If you did like this, make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Save this. You can use this as an index or a reference to go back and have all these links and insights on these different platforms. Let me know if I missed any, and I will absolutely include it in the next review. And just let me know, what's your favorite platforms to use? Where are you spending most of your time? Where are you earning the most? Let everyone else know in the comments below so that they can learn from your experiences as well. And as always, thanks for watching. Cheers.